All right. Hot mic, hot mic. Okay. Let me check and make sure we're good. I still have some very agitated, angry felines because her food's a little different. So she's been staring at me for the last 15 minutes and I'm like, I'm not feeding you again. I'm not feeding you again. It reminds me of, well, I'll get into it on the thing today, on our stream today. Let me see. I should be good. Yep, we're live and we're on. Okay, so if anyone has questions, you can pop them in the chat and I'll get to them. But today we're going to have fun. Fun every time, but we're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to talk about backrooms and the higher consciousness twist on backrooms and what backrooms, how that's kind of come to be. And it's no coincidence it's coming to be now. Now, I had seen this before. I had never heard of it called backrooms until maybe a couple of years ago. And I had seen this stuff on YouTube. And I want to think the Y-Files did something about backrooms too. Did some kind of video about people kind of falling into a different dimension. And I wanted to rewatch it before I did this today, but I didn't have time to find that one just to see how they had kind of deconstructed it. But it's probably best I didn't because I'm going to kind of deconstruct it on my own knowledge and remembering. So I sometimes I'll listen to it to see like, okay, that's an interesting way to take it. Sometimes I'll look at it and go, nah, maybe not. But most of the stuff on there is it's a great channel. I talk about it all the time. For very linear people. So if you have someone in your life that's extremely linear, it really opens people up. And there's no reason why that channel was already really popular, but it's blown up so much. I don't know if I know anyone that doesn't talk about the Y-Files now. It's even bigger and bigger and bigger than it was before, and it was already big. Because those are the questions people have. And Backrooms has kind of become a little bit of a phenomenon because it's time for it to be a phenomenon. It's time for it, this type of consciousness to come to the forefront. And that's, so your back room is now all of a sudden your front room, right? So I have not seen the movie and I didn't see it intentionally. I really don't go to the movies anyway anymore, but unless it's for the kid, unless it's for the kids, and then I'll go. But, and that's more for the experience of taking them to a theater because I don't feel like they're going to be around for much longer by the time they're grown up. Okay, so backrooms. How is this all coming about now? And what exactly is a backroom? Now, when I start this conversation, I don't want it to kind of get into people who have fallen into backrooms, you know, who have had an experience. And we're not talking about the movie, we're talking about people who have had an experience in this situation, in this office-like situation. Or I think in the movie it was an office. From some of the stuff I heard about it, some of the pictures I saw, it wasn't so much an office. It was an office, but it was more like just white, very stale rooms. But something's there, you know. So you have that kind of. So it kind of made it into this horror trope too. So we talk about backrooms consciously, and we talk about what is that concept and what do we have to do. There's a big trend now, and it's probably been a trend for a while, but it's a trend that's now hit this neighborhood I'm in, where people are flipping their houses, right? And they're people who have inherited them. They don't want to clean them out. They don't want to take the time to fix them up. They just want to get rid of them, get the money, and move on, right? So they sell them a lot cheaper, so they don't have to clean out anything. Now, I want you to remember that everything external that we create is a mirror of what's internal, right? So when I see a lot of people flipping things and not wanting to clean things out or go through things or fix something up, that kind of mirrors to me that they're avoiding a lot of stuff inside too. Now, there could be a situation where someone is so busy with all the internal work that they feel that it's better to do this and move on instead of going and getting... So we can look at this another way. Getting all into that, remembering it, and it doesn't matter, just throw it all away and it doesn't matter. So those are two separate camps. You kind of got to decide what camp you're in. Are you avoiding it, or are you just aware it's not worth, it doesn't mean anything, it has no meaning, let's just move on as fast as possible so I can go create something else. So you can go two ways with that. But today I'm going to focus more on the what we're not looking at, what we don't want to see. Now, to me, someone not consciously, but someone slipping into a back room where they're having a physical experience is not out of the norm of us creating any type of reality we create, right? Our universe is always going to get our attention. Now, this does not mean that anyone who has had this experience is, what's the word I want to use, is avoiding and not doing. People are having this experience to bring it to the forefront. Okay, that's why people have any experience. You know, you could have people who fall into that camp. You could have people who are working on cleaning out their own back rooms internally, and all of a sudden they have created that externally so they can share that experience. And it's like a key code. It's like Reiki. It's like, I can't remember the other key code the other day I talked about. Deja vu is one. Oh, manifestation is one. Energy is a key code, really. Backrooms has kind of become a key code to unlock. It's unlocking DNA. It's unlocking the rooms inside of us we have to clean out. Some of us will have it in a dream state. And because it's in a dream state, we don't see it as the same. It's really no different than our waking state. So if someone said, I had an experience where I lost time, fell into this time warp, this different dimension, all of a sudden I was in a back room, right? Or I dreamed I was in this basement. All of a sudden, the dream is like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But the person who said, oh, no, this really happened to me, you're like, oh, that's ridiculous. Because the dreams, we will dive in them a little bit more because we don't think they're real. We don't really think we're in that dimension. We don't really think we're there. But we are there. It's just kind of like when you look at how a lot of people depict the back rooms, and you also have to remember, it's a higher consciousness experience coming through a coming through a person that might not be that consciousness to explain it. So it's kind of like channeling, right? Except they might not have felt the experience the way some of these people are talking about. They have experienced this. When you talk about when people channel, and I used to do the same because I channeled too. Everyone, if you haven't channeled, start channeling. You're just bringing in more of yourself, right? You're just bringing down more of yourself. You're communicating with a higher aspect of yourself. You can only channel yourself. That's why when you're in your back room, no one in the back room with you is you. And that's kind of, from what I heard of the movie, that's kind of how the movie takes it, right? The only thing in there is you. Different versions of you, different consciousnesses of you, different copies of you. I just think it's an interesting way we're going to look at that too. It's just different types of you, right? But we do that all the time. How many realities do we just copy over and over and over again and say, oh, it's different? No, it's actually the same. I just copied the old one. It's slightly different. It's a copy, but it's kind of the same energy. It's the same energy that created it. So when a lot of people will channel, they're going to talk the words of higher consciousness, but if their consciousness is not that, which is not going to be if you're channeling, because if you're channeling something higher than you are. So you're going to now repeat it in a cadence, in a voice that is not that frequency, so it's lost in translation. That's why a lot of people don't like channel work. Some people, for a while, you can listen to channel work. Sometimes you can't anymore because the words they're saying are higher, the frequency they're saying it is lower, and it kind of loses its boom. It loses its impact. It loses its frequency boost. It loosens the unlocking of your DNA that it's trying to do. It loosens all those things. It loses it. It loses all those things because the consciousness, the tone of the speech is not the frequency of the words, right? It's different. So it can work for a while for some people where you can listen to channel work. It might have never worked for you. You might not have ever been able to listen to channel work. And for some of us, I could listen to it for a while. Now I kind of stay away from it because the stuff they're channeling is not the frequency they are. They're not embodying it. And if you embody it, you're not channeling it. You are that. The information's coming through you and you're just saying it, right? It's nobody else. It's just a higher version of you you've embodied and now it's coming out. So Backrooms to me is kind of anytime anyone people talk about alien encounters, it's kind of a similar kind of thing. The consciousness of that experience is not the consciousness of the person normally because they're having that physical experience. If we have to have that physical experience that we feel we did not create, it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to go I want to speak with my galactic council. And some people still, like when I say I want to talk to my universe, it's kind of a similar thing. Yes, it's just me. Yes, it's all inside of me, but I give it a persona sometimes, so I feel like I'm talking to somebody, okay? Same thing when people talk about the Galactic Council, right? And it's the same thing. I'm going to channel it, or you can just say, hey, I'm going to talk to my Galactic Council, and I'll get back to you. Let me see what everyone has to say here. It's kind of a way to externalize it a little bit, even though you know it's internal, for explanation, and just to kind of give yourself a moment to get a different perspective on something. So let me just kind of noodle that a little bit. But you know it's not outside of you, right? It's inside of you. If you've embodied it. If you haven't, it's still going to be outside of you. People having alien encounters are people that are not embracing that aspect, or they wouldn't need the encounter. Okay, or they're ready to embrace that aspect, and they just need that physical thing to happen to activate that part of their DNA. Okay, so a lot of these things happen to people because it's time for this stuff to happen to people. They have these experiences because it unlocks their DNA. Everything is inside of us. We have to clean out our own back rooms. We have to go in these back rooms and clean them out. I've had a lot of dreams about going into a basement. And I know I'm just, when we go higher in frequency, we have to go deeper within ourselves. It means we have to clean out everything that's in there. And we have to clean out our own back rooms. We have to go in there and see what's in there and bring it out. And yes, there can be stuff in there we don't like. And there's a lot of times we'll avoid that. I think in the movie there usually is a shadow in the back room, right? So people can say, "Oh, it's our shadow self." It's just us. It's just the part of us that doesn't want to have that room cleaned out. It doesn't want to have to look at that stuff. It doesn't want to have to go back through it, and because we talked earlier about, and the movie goes into copies. Like, this is a copy of reality, copying, and everything gets copied, and it loses something in translation, loses in the copy, right? Like I said, I haven't seen it. This is just some of the stuff I had heard about it. And I can kind of get into that consciousness a little bit, because I do understand that we are we're unconsciously copying things all the time. We redo things a lot, So going into a back room within ourselves and seeing a lot of stuff that's kind of similar, stuff we had not wanted to deal with, not wanted to clear out before. And it's there, but it's a little different because we remember it a little different. It's a different frequency. I've done tons of videos on changing rewriting the past and the future shifts, because it's going to be different because we remember things in a different frequency. You can have a great experience, what you thought was a great experience, and you go back and look at it again and go, oh, well, now I kind of would look at it differently. I would now upgrade that experience. So if I went back to the original experience, it would not feel as good, because now I'm looking at that experience and I'm going to remember it from a higher frequency. So some of the most traumatic, air quote, anyone listening to this on the podcast later, anyone looking at this if it was a traumatic experience, you're going to go back and look at that differently from a higher consciousness later. You're going to kind of rewrite what it was. It was a soul contract. It was meant to be. I was supposed to do these things. I was supposed to open that person up. They were supposed to open me up. I was supposed to do all these things with them. And that's why we had this experience. Was it traumatic? Yes, this person was supposed to leave my life. They weren't supposed to stick around. They were supposed to go. All these things happen because they're supposed to happen. We're not sitting here as a victim to things. But, a lot of times things get depicted, as victims. And the alien stuff's one thing. Backrooms, you can look at alien stuff as the galactic version of it, and Backrooms as the soul version of it. Two kind of dramatically different experiences, but trying to, a physical manifestation of internal things that need to be activated, need to be cleaned out, need to be reviewed, need to be looked at. Why is it different? Why is it a copy? Because I can't remember it the same way. We're always changing our frequency. You're never going to have the same experience twice. You can't, because your frequency technically is never the same. In our human consciousness, we don't tick up enough to change things in a minute, or in 6 months. Sometimes it can take decades to really see a lot of shifts in our reality. That's why our human experiences move so slow, You have to look at, you're born, what happens by age 7 and by 14, and you're out of school by 18. And, it can take decades and decades to decades to move through the human experience, okay? It is not like the higher consciousness soul embodiment experiences where it's a lot faster. Now, when we're in it, we feel like it's slower because we're trying to rebuild from scratch, and we're like, oh, why is this taking, 2 years? But in our human experience, that was 18 years or that was 10 years. But in this, it's 3 years, and we feel like it's forever because we just want the new thing. We want to be able to move on. And if we haven't moved on yet, we feel like we kind of are getting left behind. And a part of us is kind of still stuck there, which kind of can go back into a lot of people. When I've done videos on this too, and if they're not on this Substack, they're going to be on my YouTube channel. A lot of my older stuff is on there where we talked about people kind of getting stuck. I know I had the same experience after a traumatic event back in the, I guess, mid-2000s, where I kind of got stuck a little bit. Like, I felt like, it was summer when the thing happened, and I'm going into fall, and it was just a little thing, like I'm wearing sandals, and someone I was talking to was like, why are you wearing sandals? It's October. And I'm like, oh God, is it? I'm still stuck in summer, when that thing happened. We kind of get stuck there. So to find a copy of ourselves in these rooms, to me, makes complete sense. When you look at it consciously and really start to pull it apart as to what things are. Now, our human wants to stop at horror and nightmare kind of fueled kind of stuff and make believe. But we know it's not make believe. All these things, we do them all the time. We separate off into different parts of our existence that was traumatic. That's when we start to do soul embodiment. You're bringing all the pieces of your soul back, the parts you left behind, the parts you gave away, the parts that got frozen somewhere else, and you have to go back and kind of unearth them and find them. We cannot go higher in frequency unless we go deeper inside of ourselves. And when you go deeper inside of yourselves, you're going to find a lot of stuff in there. Like, I can remember this dream I had. This was one of my back rooms but it was more like a basement, but I could tell like someone was living here, but it was living there like, and I had this dream years ago, but it was kind of vivid when I was thinking about this topic or feeling into this topic the other day. And it was like, wow, let me really think about this. And I just remember there was like one of those old school radios, and like someone's like living down in this area. Who's living down here? But I knew it was an old aspect of me was still down here. Something separated off. Now, that dream was an activator for me. And no, I didn't finish it all in that dream. It activates that consciousness of clearing that out. And then it might take me a year. It's like a portal. Just like the back rooms have been described as portals. A portal opens up and you go in. The dream world is, we're going to look at it more like an energetic portal, but it's just as real as what we have here. We're also in an energetic portal right now. It's just because it has a physical form and we feel like we're awake, it's different than the dream world. It's a portal we go through. And we can leave pieces of ourselves behind as we go through all of our experience. The human existence is not an easy one. Anyone who said they had an easy human experience is rewriting their own human history, because none of it is. Now, there will be a part when you can look back at it and understand why it occurred, but going through it, us separating off and breaking off and all these things happening, we understand why it happened. We understand why we separate off. We understand why we went through all these things, because we had to go through all these things to get to a different frequency. Now, when we get to a different frequency, eventually we have to bring it all back together again. It's kind of like we take the puzzle and we throw it all up, and now we got to bring it all back together, because how it was before was kind of misshapen anyway. So it wasn't like a complete soul print. It was something else. So as we kind of drop pieces of ourselves in all these different realities, and all of a sudden we have to come back and start putting everything back together again, that's soul embodiment. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's when we have to not do things that are not aligned with that consciousness. Anything I was like, when I was in that version of my back room, anything that was not aligned with that aspect that was still in there, I didn't even know that was even in there. It's like I'm unearthing it. I'm exploring all these things. And if we look at it like that, and yeah, there's going to be things that don't want us to do that. Of course it is. The ego, human consciousness, even though we're not really killing it, we're killing off its control. Nothing likes to lose control that feeds on control. Even though it technically doesn't have any control, it has the illusion of control. So the minute we stop giving it control, the minute we stop giving it our attention, giving it all of our decisions to make, it does fight back. And that people will talk about. I don't like the term, and I heard this used with the movie or with Backrooms in general, entity. I don't like that term. It gives something a form that, and a more of an importance and more of a powerful form than it's just energy. It doesn't really matter. It's energy that doesn't want that to be cleaned out. There are copies of us that if we clean out the energy, that copy of us is going to die in a sense. It's an old, even if the copy is a different way to say it, it's a different frequency of us. It's an old frequency of us. It is not what we, it's not exactly how we remembered it. And that goes we're kind of looping back into a frequency thing. Every time you look at something that was in a different frequency, it's different. Because you're looking at it from a frequency you're at now and how it was back then, you don't remember it like that because you've rewritten it. So when you explore, whether you've been someone that's actually been in Backrooms, whether you have just enjoyed the activation, which is Backrooms, whether it be the movie or the stuff on YouTube about it, or like I said, I'm pretty sure Y-Files did a video on exploring or kind of he does a lot of debunking, demything kind of stuff on Backrooms. If it's an interesting topic for you and it's something you want to explore, it's an activation to go deeper inside yourself to do that and to see what it is. Same thing with alien encounters or galactic UFOs. If that's something that interests you and it's activating that consciousness, all this consciousness is locked inside of us. It's just waiting for us to unlock it. And if we have to go through a couple of our back rooms and clean them out to get there, to unearth that other room, we have higher consciousness rooms too. We don't just have these rooms that are like, oh my gosh, there's mold in here, I got to clean it out. There's black mold in this room. I have to get all this stuff out of here. We're not trying to even salvage it. We just want to just forget about it, just throw it in the trash and keep going. And for a lot of people who didn't want to ever get rid of anything, they would go through, I used to love to collect stuff and then I got black mold and I never did it again. It was for them it was their universe's way of letting them to let go of all this stuff. None of it matters. None of it defines you. None of it is you. There's so many versions of us. And I think kind of what these, it's the same thing about multidimensionality. When people watch it in a movie, it's like dreaming about it. It's not as real to them and they don't have to face it as much. It activates the consciousness. So we've kind of gone from multidimensionality being a big thing in the late 2000s and kind of into the 2020s, but in the late 20 teens, I guess. But people kind of got bored with that. And now all of a sudden they're into Backrooms and I'm trying to think of what else is hot and trendy right now, but they're just consciousness activators, just a different way to activate the consciousness. A lot of people are into the alien stuff now. You see a lot of that whistleblower stuff and all over the place there. It's a way to activate that consciousness. It's all inside of you. And if you haven't started to really align with that thinking, people remember things from Atlantis, from Lemuria, from past lives are kind of the same thing. It's a multidimensional existence happening simultaneously, yes, but it's still ingrained in our DNA. So you unlock these things. You unlock them in the precise moment where it's energetically similar to something going on here. That's why you might not have remembered it before, and all of a sudden you start having these people call them remembrances. Or I actually saw something, it was actually on the Y-Files today. They did something about the cadence of nature bringing knowledge forth, and how they had rats that it took them 100 tries to do something, and then after a couple iterations of their offspring, and they weren't trying it anymore, they were just mating the ones that took so long to do something, and the newer versions did it quicker. like they were picking up on the knowledge, same thing, and they had different things all across nature that were learning to do things, but they had no genetic, they might have had a genetic connection, but they hadn't had the experience. They had learned to work through experiences without having to go through the experience. They're remembering. It's like a collective remembering. Same thing with, they talked about a dog knowing when their owner had left work and going toward the door. And the owner might have to drive 20 minutes, but the minute that hit, they knew to go to the door. The minute that the person walked out the door, they knew, oh, okay, it's time. Because they could feel it in the field. To me, it's a way to explain that field of consciousness. So that is not how science wants to explain it. But we're all connected. Now, a dog can pick up on everything in its field. That's why it's always going nuts. That's why it's always kind of on. It knows when someone's about to get here. It knows when the owner's about to leave. And it's not because, they wait and get fed when the owner gets home, or they know the timing of everything. They sense the shifts in the field. They don't have anything in their way. So animals, just like animals who can sense earthquakes, animals who can sense different, service dogs. You see them all the time doing these amazing things and sensing all these things. They sense these things because they don't have the human emotional blockages in the way that we have. We have so many things that kind of get in our way. We have so many things that programming and our frequency's low, our body frequency low, because we're so bogged down in all this stuff and all our human stories. And animals don't have that. They don't have to cut through, oh my God, I was abandoned at birth, or oh my God, this person doesn't like me. They don't have all that crap, right? So their field, they just can sense through the field, and they understand. They understand that, when you ever watch a cat do anything, they can sense when anything moves or anything. They don't even have to see something different. You put something down on the floor that's different. They don't have to see you put it down. They will know something's different in their field, and they'll go find out what it is. They'll start looking around because they sense that something is different. Something has shifted, something has changed. And if you start changing your frequency, you'll notice your animals are acting differently. One, they're going to shift a different aspect because they have different aspects too. They're going to be the aspect you are, the strongest. That's the one they're going to mirror back at you. So when we shift, they shift. So all of a sudden, what you used to look at them and go, oh, what's going on with them? Why are they acting this way? Well, wait, how am I acting? Kids do the same. They'll kind of mirror the same thing back to you. So it was just really interesting conversations about the field and consciousness, and we're all connected. So that is why if the collectives don't move, we cannot move. We can't shift completely because we have to have, the collectives have to clear something before we can completely clear it. That is why so many people get out there and share about awakening, share about ascension, share about their experiences, talk about, channeling. I might not it doesn't really resonate with me anymore, that information. But I understand there's a purpose for it, because when I was coming through, I listened to certain people doing certain stuff like that. So it might not be for me anymore, but it's for someone, and it's going to open somebody up. That's why no matter what we have to share, we need to go out and share it, because someone somewhere is waiting for that. The person who started all this stuff about Backrooms and started talking about it, someone was waiting for that, to bring that information forth, give it a name, give it an identity, activate the key code, where now everyone is like, it's almost like a phenomenon. Everyone's like, oh, Backrooms. But it's not a phenomenon because it's a horror story. It's a phenomenon because it's rooted in a key code within the body. And it's something we have to do. We can't, and what are we getting stuck in a room? What room are we stuck in? And we can't get out. We've kind of imprisoned ourselves in there, and we don't want to leave. There's a lot of times that we will look at versions of ourselves, old versions of us, and go back and think about the way you treated someone 20 years ago or 15 or 5 minutes ago, really. But normally when we're doing this especially when we're looking at it and we were in our human consciousness, it will usually be a while back and be like, I can't believe I was like that. I can't believe I was so disconnected from everyone else. But we're not disconnected from everybody else. And that's why I thought that another thing the movie kind of got into was a lot of the Backrooms were similar. Because we have a shared experiences. a lot of us do, and my experience might not be exactly like yours, but you might be exactly like somebody else. It's a different soul group. It's a different galactic family. It's a different branch of the same tree. It's a different offshoot of the family tree. I keep seeing the Game of Thrones family tree in my head and how it splitters off. It's the same kind of thing. It's the same kind of thing. It's kind of always it's just a different offshoot of the same thing. It's a different interpretation of the same thing. But we will have similar experiences, and people have similar experiences with the alien thing. It's very similar. Most people describe like the same thing, over and over again. And it was funny because I remember, I know I talked about this once before, but it was some Saturday Night Live skit that Ryan Gosling did, where they would do a lot of the alien stuff. But there's one lady that had the same terrible experience every time, and he was talking about how great it was, and it was just pure love. And she's like, "What are you talking about? That was not my experience." Different frequencies, different experiences, different. We look at everything a different way, and it's not the person, it's the consciousness, it's the frequency they're at, how they're going to experience something. How you're going to experience a back room, it might not be how someone else experiences a back room. Someone else might go to that movie and be completely terrified. Someone else goes to that movie and they feel kind of curious, and they want to activate more of that inside of themselves. If you're curious about anything, it's just an activation for you. It really doesn't matter what it is. Whether it's crystals, and I think there was another thing they talked about when they talked about birds. It was birds and a couple of different things in nature that just kind of knew how to do something, that different iterations of nature may be separated by water and continents and time and space. Like particles will find themselves they'll learn from each other no matter how far apart they are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone's across the sea or next door to you, if they know what's going on with you. Now, are they open to the information? That's a different story. That's when we get into the human consciousness kind of shuts us down. All of that stuff in a way, all that crap in our back rooms, it keeps us from opening up to our field. It's all in the way. When you see how quickly animals do things and how quickly they pick up on things, how quickly they understand something as far as stuff in their field and what's going on in their field, when they don't have any of that stuff in their way, they're not worried about, oh God, I got to figure out how to pay the house payment, or oh, I got to go do this, and this person might be mad at me, or this person is this, and I don't know what to do here. That is not something that animals have. So they have more. When you watch animals do things, children are the same way, small kids. You get to a certain age where they start getting into that human consciousness and their ego starts coming in, and they start to glitch out a little bit on you. But when they're really small, you see the same thing. They pick up things easy. Their mind is like a sponge, and people say because it's not the age, it's the consciousness of the child. That's why they can do all those things. That's why all of a sudden they can remember a different existence they had, or the one they're having now. But to them, I don't like past life because it gets into that construct of time, but they remember other times, other existences clearly. I always remember that video of some kid it's like he was 2 and he's in the back directing this orchestra, and the orchestra's somewhere else, or he's watching on TV, and it was like he was just doing it, and his parents filmed it. It was like amazing to them because he remembered. He knew that used to be him at some point, or it was him now in a different dimension doing something very similar. So when we start looking at all these things, then we want to, linear consciousness, human consciousness is always going to try to make an excuse for it. And they talked a little bit about this. I can't remember what crystals were doing. It was something on the same kind of thing where they were learning. They were passing on the learning, but they shouldn't have been able to. You know what I mean? There wasn't these are not things genetically linked. Learning is not genetically linked. Like if I learned how to paint a house, and perfectly, it did not mean that the kid I have would paint a house perfectly, right? There are some knowledge, experiences that they said they should not pass down, but they were passing down. And crystals were having a very similar thing where they were learning to do something, and all of a sudden crystals halfway across the world were also learning to do something. and science came up with something about it's a crystal of a seed that somehow transported over. I mean, some of the reasons they give to explain quantum physics or trying to explain the quantum entanglements, try to explain, universal field of consciousness, it feels like it's so ludicrous than just saying, yes, it's a universal field of consciousness. Now we're going to talk about these tiny microbic crystal seeds that somehow got over in someone's clothes that then crossed the Atlantic to then infect these crystals over here, and that's how they can do the same thing. It's kind of like if you go to evolution and you dig deep into evolution, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. The moon landing, that doesn't make a lot of sense either. There's a lot of things that we go back and look at, and like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense that really happened that way when we really take a look at it. And but the linear brain is conditioned to be a certain way. It's conditioned to understand certain things, and it's conditioned to have, if someone else tells you that's the reason, because they are a doctor or they're a lawyer or they're in a power position in a sense, they know more. And that is a human consciousness doctrine. I don't know another word to describe it. That's a human consciousness doctrine, right? And we're supposed to listen because you know more than I do. And we know once we get to certain aspects of our consciousness, that's bullshit. You don't know more than I do. Some of the reasons you're giving me are ridiculous. That doesn't even make any sense. And so I don't follow that doctrine, and I create my own doctrine. I'm succeeded from that, and now I could just create my own on what I feel is appropriate for me. And I don't need someone to tell me to do this or tell me when to jump. You see so many people waiting for someone to tell them what to do. And I just know eventually all those people waiting for someone to tell them what to do, they're going to get slapped on the hand by it because their universe will show them stop waiting for someone to tell you what to do, or the people telling them what to do. And it might not be from a malicious place. It could be just trying to help the person out, because sometimes I'll try to catch myself doing that. And I'm like, oh, that person didn't ask for help. Why am I trying to overstep? Human consciousness is all overstepping. It's all, getting into someone else's field. And you know more than they do. I see this, you see it so much, especially it's really exploded on social media. People want to kind of get into everything going on with somebody else and say, oh, it's this, it's that, this is why, and this is why. Only you're going to know. There will be times when you're going to outsource the information because you're not at the consciousness to unlock it yet. But that doesn't mean you're always going to be there. I think a lot of us fall into this category and we kind of get lost in the back room of someone else has got to unlock the door for me. No one has to unlock your door for you. They can show you how to make the key. They can maybe even assist you in gaining access to the key. But only you can put the key in the lock. It's only you can do those things. When we start to kind of get trapped by that, and spirituality, it's a massive trap. It can start out, it's a key code in itself, opening people up, getting people into something different. Religion, the same thing. None of this stuff started out, though religion did kind of start out in more of a controlling aspect many iterations ago. But even spirituality turned into that. It's like now you got to wait, and this person's got to tell you what to do or what not to do. And wait, Gemini is, Mercury's retrograde. You can't do all those things. But once you embrace the energies inside of you of Mercury, all the planets are inside of us. And once you embrace that and embody that aspect, embody that planet, it doesn't matter if Mercury's retrograde. Who gives a shit? I don't care. I've embodied that aspect. So I also know by trial and error, though, I had to embody that aspect. So I had to make sure when Mercury was in retrograde, I was clear and concise. And when it wasn't, I continued to be clear and concise with communication and over-communicating. So there's going to be times when, it's important to understand the aspect and to understand what it's trying to teach us. What is it trying to get you to embody? If your life goes wonky because Mercury's in retrograde, what is that trying to show you? What are you not in line with as Mercury's energy? What have we not embodied as Mercury's energy? What are we not doing that Mercury's trying to show us? Mercury is like anyone in your reality trying to teach you something. What is it trying to show you? What is it trying to teach you? That's what we want. That's where we want to go. These are the important things. If you go into one of your back rooms and it's astrology, let's look at it. It's not that it doesn't have a message, but we get lost in the bottle where the message is, and we want to stay there and be afraid of Mercury retrograde and be afraid of these planets aligning. Or we go the opposite way, and because these things are this way and the energy is so different, my whole life is going to be totally different. Well, if we haven't embodied the energy of that, it's not going to make a difference. I used to be very, very much fall into that camp. I thought when certain energies came, everything was just going to flow. And I didn't have to do anything. I could just, now Uranus was direct and not Uranus, Venus. Venus is direct, so everything, because I'm a Taurus, Venus is my ruling planet, everything's going to be great because that's direct now. But I'm not doing anything, so we can either be afraid of it or overly compensating for it or overly giving it more power than it has, because that power is always inside of us. We decide, we embody it, we embrace that energy of we embrace that teaching. If you want to look at it from that angle, we embrace the teaching of these things. We embody that teaching, and what is not that teaching, we have to align to that teaching. And then it really ceases to matter, because you are Mercury. You are Venus. It doesn't matter anymore. Yes, astrology is another key code. It's important to understand it because it's going to activate the planets within yourself. But we don't want to get constrained there. Don't get locked in that back room. Spirituality is a lot of back rooms. And yes, they're there to open us up, but we want to keep going. But a lot of people stop because keeping going means you have to take the power within yourself. You have to say, I am the most powerful person in my reality, period. That's what you have to do. It's not about everybody else. It's about what you're doing and what you're not doing. It's not about what everybody else is doing. And we have to be able to take that empowerment. And if we're not doing that, then we're gonna learn to have to do that, because we're the ones that create it all. We're the ones that are responsible for all these things, whether we like it or not. And a lot of people I know, they don't like it, and I remember there was a time I didn't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be responsible like that. But I have to be, because that's my responsibility. My reality is my responsibility. Everything that happens in it is my responsibility, one way or the other. So, all right. I made a couple notes today because I did want to get into certain things. Oh, there was another thing they talked about besides the dogs I thought was kind of interesting. When they talked about, the field of consciousness, basically, is how I took it. That if people started solving a crossword puzzle in the morning, it took them so long, by the end of the day, different people solving the puzzle just solved it quicker. Because people would say that's just a coincidence or whatever. But the information is in the universal consciousness. So whether you're consciously getting it or subconsciously getting it, the information is now out there, right? So now you can get that information and you can do your task quicker because the information is available. So I'm going to leave you with that one. If anyone has any questions or wants to talk about any of these concepts, you can leave them in the comments later. I'll put this up for video for paid subscribers and the audio for my free subscribers, so everyone will kind of get to hear this one. I don't think I have anything else. I think that's it. I'll wait a few minutes because I know I have a delay on this. There's a delay, like a 20-second delay, but I think I kind of need that 20 seconds. I'll just, the sun is in and out. I was painting this morning and the sun is in and out, in and out, in and out. All day. All right. I don't think I have anything else. I think that's it for me. Okay. I will see everyone next time. I'll try to do 2 lives next week. Okay.